Hey Musky Hunters, welcome to the Musky Shop Workshop Series. You know, this inside scoop thing we're doing takes you guys to another level of what you can do with your lures to become more versatile and add a uniqueness to your lure. And what we're going to talk about today, because we're focusing on this whole boulder cranking technique with Brutus the Boulder Beast YouTube segment. By the way, if you want to catch my show, just Google Joe Bucher YouTube, and it'll come up at my site, Fishing with Joe Bucher YouTube, and that's where you find me now. And Musky Shop is one of my great sponsors, and we're going to talk here today about just modifying your crankbaits for different situations. Now, here's the big shallow raider series, the Magnum shallow raider that I caught Brutus the Boulder Beast on, and we designed this, you know, with the balance of hooks and everything straight out of the package. It works great. These are black nickel hooks, and this is a 5/0, and they work great. And this will create a very buoyant lure, and this works great for shallow to mid-range boulders. Now, if you want to decrease the buoyancy of this lure, and you just one of those folks that just likes bigger hooks, one of the things you can do that I've designed, you know, I've been talking about this on every lure that I use, that keep an open mind and stay very versatile. Look at the hook size difference of these lures, on these two lures. You can see that there's two, it's the same lure, but there's two completely different hook sizes. That's a 5/0 on there, it's a 7/0 on the bottom. Now what the Musky Shop offers is, it's fantastic, because here Musky Shop's got these kits. You keep one of these in your boat, in one of your storage boxes, and even if you cut a hook off, when you catch one of these fish and they're deeply hooked, you can quickly pull out a hook, and you got a full selection of stuff here that you can go to, you know, different hook sizes. Everybody should have this, along with some split rings. Everybody should have a kit like this in their boat, because it really does, I mean, if you catch fish, you're going to damage hooks. Now, what they also offer is premium hooks. In fact, Musky Shop has this. Take a look at this. Just one little section here. All of the incredible hook replacement selections that they offer here, and you know the prices vary a lot, and it depends on what your budget allows, what kind of hook you like. In fact, I want to show you something in that respect. Is one of the things I do like, I'm impressed with. It started for me on the bass fishing side of things, and I'm going to change out a hook just to show you. I'm really crazy about these. I got really crazy about these inward bending, wide gap inward bending trebles, and I originally started using these. Also, you watch my show regularly. You see I use these a lot for bass fishing. Smallmouth in particular, they'll drive you nuts with jumping and throwing baits, but these inward bending wide gap hooks like this are terrific for stopping these fish from shaking baits. Now, what's neat about this style of hook, and a lot of us have nicknamed this a KVD hook, but I don't think he actually designed it, other than, you know, he's got his name on it. This was actually designed by the folks at Mustad initially, but it's available by several manufacturers. And what's neat about this treble hook, beyond that it keeps these fish hooked well on the jumping fish, and muskies jump too, is this inward bending treble, point on the treble, really is an advantage for rock fishing. Now, when you're fishing in boulders, we're going to change one of these baits out here just to show you this. See, when you're running this bait down into boulders, that point, see how, remember I showed you that trick that if you want to make sure your hook is sharp, it should stick in your thumbnail. This won't, and what's happening is these downward bending trebles get dulled quickly by hitting boulders. When they're hitting these boulders, and if you're trolling these baits over boulders, you will wear these hooks out. You'll actually wear these hooks out in a day, maybe in a few hours. Now, one of the advantages of this inward bending treble is the point is because it's bending inwards, so you just got to get these off, and of course use really good split rings. But get this, take your whatever treble you're using, take those off and put these wide gap inward point hooks here, and put that on. We'll just put one on and show you. Now, when you're running into rocks, see the point is bending inward, so the rocks have a tendency to hit here, and it keeps your point sharp. And this might not seem like a big deal, But trust me, with all the bass fishing I've done, when you go to this style of hook and you're bouncing rocks with those little trebles, I mean, you'll literally wear the point right off of those things in a couple of spots. But when, even in the musky game with these bigger hooks, does it make a difference? Yeah, it makes a difference, because if your hook is sharp and you have that one chance at a really big fish, and that fish grabs this bait and gets hooked on it, if that hook is dull and it's been dulled up by hitting boulders, that fish is going to be able to grab that bait and just open his mouth and out comes the hook. But if that hook is sharp and in this inward bending treble, I think there's going to be a huge trend towards this with crankbait guys especially, because when you're fishing in rocks, this is really, really, really going to help you. And it's going to keep you. The other thing is, by the way, it's going to help is it's going to stop snags. Now, one last thing in our workshop segment here is, let's go back to this, showing you these two baits. When you're changing out, if you got a hot bait, let's say you got a hot shallow raider that's really catching fish, you should have 2 or 3 of them. Okay, and this is not a marketing play. This is good advice, because if you damage the lure or you lose the lure, you're going to need a replacement, and it's going to drive you nuts on a trip on a remote area if you're trying all these other baits you got in your box and you think, oh man, if I'd have just had a backup. Always have a backup or 2 or 3 of your favorite baits, your hot producers. Always have a backup. Now, with that in mind, when you have a backup, rig them differently. Rig one with the 5/0 stock hooks, rig the next one with 6/0s, and so on. You can, with this bait, you can go all the way up to a 7/0, and it gives you tremendous versatility, because the heavier hooks underneath is going to give you more of a slow rise suspending style lure, and this is going to be a much better bait over high rocks and thick weeds. So they both have their time and place. And just be versatile. And again, if you remember anything from this tip series, is that always have a backup. Always have a backup of your best baits, and don't be afraid to change hooks out. And you got a wide range of hook selections here at the Musky Shop. Check out their catalog, muskyshop.com, and you can see they've just got an incredible selection, the best in the world, the Musky Shop.